Paul Deol is one of those 275 people who spent the night in his car with his family on Highway 7, trapped between two mudslides, but he's made it out and he's finally home. Paul, that must feel great to be back home now.
Yeah, hot shower never felt so good.
So take me back to last night. You and your wife and your two sons, they're just 4 and 6 years old. Tell me about that moment where you realized the four of you were going to be spending the night in the dark on the highway.
Yeah, it happened pretty quickly. We were at the home stretch on Highway 7. We saw some flashing lights up ahead. We didn't think there was any more landslides because there's nothing being reported. A gentleman came up, who was turning cars around, telling us, hey, there was a pretty substantial slide and it's likely it wasn't going to be cleared that night. So we turned our truck around and headed back to Hope. We made it maybe a minute down the road before traffic stopped again. And we came to the realization that we were trapped between two slides. And so then really it was a matter of finding where's the safest place to park the truck so we don't get caught in another slide that night.
I bet it was a long, cold night. Describe it for us. I can't imagine being in that truck overnight with two little kids. What was it like?
You know what? It actually wasn't too bad. We're pretty fortunate to drive that highway pass quite often, so we always have an emergency kit. My mother-in-law is Italian, so she packed us tons of food to bring home, and so we had food and drink. We had blankets and candles, so we were okay to spend the night. I think the kids were a little bit scared because there's a lot of water running off the hill. So once they got calmed down, we fired up the Netflix. They got to watch 3 movies that night with us, so they had a blast. So the night wasn't too bad for us. I think we were one of the fortunate ones.
Yeah, you're nothing if not resilient, and as great as that experience sounds like it was, it got even better when the helicopter came. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we figured out, I think, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon that the helicopters were coming. So between the stretch that we were trapped in, there was a lady by the name of Tracy from the Ministry of Highways. She was walking up and down the road. We had a doctor and a nurse. So we were checking on people. We had a little community set up there. And so I think the biggest thing was just feeding people information. Once we knew that choppers were coming, everybody kind of calmed down and it was all right. And then a big relief. The first thing they did was the commandos or search and rescue guys from the choppers went and they checked on everybody, let everybody know that, hey, we're all going to be out of here tonight. And then they started loading out families and yeah, kids 4 and 6, they got to take their first helicopter ride, so they're pretty excited.
We have just a few seconds left. You mentioned your kids were a little bit nervous last night. How are they feeling now to be back home after a helicopter ride?
Yeah, the youngest had a tough go, but once we got to the emergency center in Agassiz, they were pretty excited. Hats off to everybody in that community of Agassiz. There was warm clothes, fresh clothes. They had toys for our kids, so they actually didn't even want to leave the evacuation center because there were so many toys there that they could play with. But they're both glad to be here.
There's been a lot of hardship in British Columbia in the last 24 hours, so it's nice to hear a story with a happy ending. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you so much.